Good evening, everyone. I'm Utkarsh, and I'm here to walk you through what's upcoming on Network Capital in the coming week. First of all, thank you very much for your warm reception of my book, Seductive Illusion of Hard Work, published by Sage. Many of you have ordered already from India and around the world, and I'm ever so grateful for your support, motivation. This book would not have been possible because of without your continual engagement, and I've learned from so many of you by um, listening to your comments, by engaging with you in masterclasses, on podcasts, and other things we do. Amazon calls it a bestseller, but I think the real joy of putting it together is actually hearing from you what you have to say. Moving on, to give you a flavor of what's next, I'd like to think of network capital. I'd like you to think of network capital in three broad categories. The first is community, the most integral element of what we do. And the second is content, which is curated content produced by some of the smartest young professionals and students around the world. And the third is career intelligence, which is on demand, specific, and focused on helping you achieve the outcome that you want. Now, let me address what we are going to do on each of these three buckets in the coming week. In terms of community, Wednesdays on Network Capital are reserved for what we call happy hours. So, starting 10 p.m. India Standard Time, every Wednesday we come together as a community, and essentially, this is our time to just hear each other. Most of what we do on Network Capital is about work and careers, but this happy hour is supposed to be largely unstructured, where the goal is for members to connect with each other, discuss areas of interest. So if you're interested in joining, I recommend that in a few hours from now, you should just click on Network Capital TV and get a flavor of what that entails. Just half an hour before we go into this slightly unstructured rhythm of programs, we all come together and have a weekly check-in on masters, MBA, and other college applications. So our philosophy on Network Capital for your higher ed aspirations is that we believe in an approach where we let the story of the person flower. To do that, one needs a robust set of mental models, examples. So what we try and do is to develop a peer support mechanism where different members with complementary goals support each other. And of course, we have a bunch of experts who are alumni from top schools and corporates and what have you, who are there to provide very specific, actionable advice. And this weekly check-in that we have is for our group of subscribers who have already told us their target schools. We have alumni present all around the world in every major institution. And this hour is just to get a weekly check-in of how people have progressed. Because when you look at application, it's not just a sprint. You have to think through why you're applying, especially at a time like this, when there are so many issues that the world is dealing with. You have to think about finances, about the postmasters or an MBA graduation prospect. And you'll have to be able to signal filter from noise, because in today's world, everyone has an opinion, but not every opinion is equally valid. So I encourage you all to check us out, take a look at our approach. In the past, we've been able to get almost 97% of people who enroll with us as subscribers into the schools of their choice, into the one of the top three schools of their choice. And it'll be incorrect to say that they got in because of us. The appropriate way to put it is that we enabled them to present their application to the best of their ability. And what we try and do is to lead with radical candor, which means that if we think that someone's probably undershooting or overshooting, we're the first person to let them know that perhaps it's time to recalibrate options. And because we have a fairly global presence, we want to make sure that from every step of your application, from the time you start thinking about which schools to figuring out who your references are, to thinking about how might you go through various aspects of writing your essay, to actually conducting mock interviews and thereafter your scholarship pursuits. We are there through every step of the way. We will never write your essay. We will never do anything which is considered unethical or frowned upon. Our belief is that higher education or such pursuits are means towards an end, and our biggest emphasis is on providing that end of clarity on what is the probability that you will actually achieve your goal, and what are stuff that you should keep in mind, what are the networks that you need to have, and how might you leverage the community in your local city, but also for a broader network capital ecosystem to achieve your goals. Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, INSEAD, London Business School, Oxford, Cambridge, you name it. There are alumni which we've trained, and they are currently representing us. And I always like to say, when you think about the first C of network capital, which is community, it's not about one-time goal. Because in our eyes, whether you get into the school of your choice or not, you're still on your path. It's very encouraging for us to see that people who actually achieve their goals, get through the colleges and corporates and other programs that they're interested in, they still remain our subscribers. So that gives us immense pride, and we take a lot of joy in essentially seeing the journey of erstwhile aspirants for those programs to now turn into peer coaches, because these are the people who actually we've trained and coached who now provide advice. Let me now transition with this set to the second pillar, which is content. And it's actually related to the community as well. How do you think we're able to access some of the smartest people around the world to create content for us? It's because many of those people have partaken of our service before, and they have been part of our community, and they are inspired by the spirit of giving. And many of them have benefited from being a part of this community, and they want to give back, they want to add value. But the central premises of network capital is still the same: givers of the world unite. So if you look at the content, I would encourage you to go to networkcapital.tv, and in the search bar say search MBA. So you will essentially get a list of content produced by all or many of our people who've gone on to top programs. And our model is that the same people we coach, who eventually become alums from the schools that they want, they create to train future cadre of applicants from NC. So this content, or the second layer, this week is really interesting for us, because one masterclass that's coming up is by a student at the Harvard Kennedy School who's just dealing and seeing the pivot to online education on a daily basis. There was reshuffling of classes and a whole bunch of things that went awry. But his masterclass is about thinking about MPA and MPP as career options, and what's the right stage to look at that. And I thought that masterclass, as in when you watch it, you'll realize that the level of clarity and the level of consideration that particular speaker had done would be really interesting for you, because he leaves you not with stories that are only applicable for him, but rather with principles that you can apply for your own application. So this content piece is especially important as you think of Network Capital TV, and that's the first masterclass that's coming up. The second masterclass is from a venture capitalist from India who works in a leading VC fund, and this particular person has had a very interesting career, from working in the likes of IFC, World Bank, then spending time in Africa, building and doing operational work, and then finally getting an MBA from one of the top schools, and now he's in India trying to figure things out. But essentially in the masterclass, he walks through his entire journey of successes, of failures, because the challenge with, say, a LinkedIn or a pithy description of what people do is that people tend to talk about only things that worked for them, and that's not particularly interesting. I think for all of you to be able to make sense of what are the options available, you need to be able to filter out everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and look at the entire person's profile from the holistic lens. And I think that's so important to keep in mind, because often we get misguided by the presence of a brand or two on the CV, which is important, but I think the larger narrative that is framed, there's a reason why people say it's part art, part science. And once you listen to watch these master classes, you will be able to figure out how and why different people made it happen. And it's really important to keep in mind that there is a reason why we deliberately bring a wide spectrum of masterclasses to you, because one person's career may or may not apply to you. You may not be able to relate to every person who's created content for you, for us on Network Capital. That's why when you have a wide spectrum to choose from, you can essentially go and pick the ones that apply best for you. The third masterclass is a really, really interesting one, in the sense that it's been produced by someone who hangs out with Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook. And she's built one of the world's largest and most thriving communities, which is mission driven, which is secret. You can't even find it if you look for it without a referral. And then she talks about the principles of culture, the principles of exclusion, inclusion, and how she's essentially built this universe of of a powerful community that some of the most powerful and influential CEOs around the world, they talk about her with reverence. And once you watch the masterclass, you will be able to make more sense of what I'm saying. But I think it's also another really interesting career pivot for you. She is, unlike the other two masterclass creators, she doesn't have a fancy MBA or an MBA. She has a very different background, but what she's built is truly impressive, and I hope you enjoy the content that's coming up. We've also, as we previously discussed, I talked to you about our flipped classroom model, where we try and use this content as a means to really get you the specific outcomes that you want. So in the past week, we concluded the first cohort of the Writing Fellowship. And the goal of this Writing Fellowship was very simple: to make sure that everyone who attends has the tool to be published by an established media outlet or an academic journal and what have you. So on different days, I believe about 40 people joined the fellowship. And these fellows went through a 4-week writing module, where they were given regular assignments, and they convened every Sunday. And in the midst, they were working through other things. And this writing fellowship is really important, because writing as a skill is essential for leadership growth. Whether you want to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, whether you want to create a company of one, or whether you want to work for a high growth startup in a leadership role or create one, if you're not able to condense and communicate your ideas with the right set of words, and if you're not able to express properly, you will never really be able to unleash your full potential. And that is why when I talk about the CEO Fellowship, which is coming up in a few weeks, in about 10 days from now, writing is a critical engagement of it. Thanks again for your overwhelming response for the CEO Fellowship. It's been so energizing to note that many of you, if not all of you, aspire to be leaders. A CEO is just like a term that we use. You could decide to be a community leader, writer, creative, what have you. But many of you joined from different fields. There are, of course, the usual suspects from management and want to be in business. But what was really energizing for us was to see applications for the CEO Fellowship from school students to college students who were right now dealing with a very existential kind of a crisis of how to figure out the lack of an internship or the viability of a job, and at the same breath really think about becoming a CEO one day. So the reality is that you cannot take life as a sequential set of accomplishments. You have to concomitantly let the short term and the long term exist. And while you do that, you have to be prepared to face some less pleasant experiences. For example, a couple of people who've joined who just had their internships rescinded, they didn't have much to do over the summer, but they're committed to the future self that they have created for themselves. And towards that end, the CEO fellowship will focus on three elements, which is writing clearly, speaking powerfully, and thinking deeply. I think there's a huge range of misconceptions going around about leadership, and I think they're not misplaced, but they're definitely incomplete. So this talk of the town is that you chase every hot new trend, AI, coding, what have you, and you automatically become a CEO. And I think that's not true at all. You need a bit of both, and you need some of these called foundational skills on top of which you really need to build on it. And I don't think it's soft skills. It's a very particular kind of skill and a mental frame that's required to actually lead people and lead organizations. And we are there to make sure that you get the outcome that you want. Whether it's writing, getting published, speaking powerfully, thinking deeply, really processing or understanding the difference between the important and the urgent, it's something that it's very important for us to help you achieve your long-term career goals, not just a short-term career goals. That's why we don't obsess over one particular outcome, even though our record in terms of helping people accomplish short-term goals, jobs, internships, scholarships, and MBA, masters, what have you, is pretty good. But we make sure that we emphasize to people who get in and who are applying that this is just one small step in a very long life, hopefully a long life, where you'll have to constantly engage with a wide set of ideas and uncertainties to be able to drive clarity, which is again an important aspect of any leadership. Continuing with that, we also have over the weekend what we call the policy boot camp, or the public policy boot camp. It's largely focused on creating meaningful careers in public policy. So in the content piece, I forgot to tell you that on Network Capital, we send out a daily newsletter that helps our subscribers become smart, hopefully. So far, the response seems to be good. But given the kind of feedback that we get from all of you, we constantly think of new ideas to surprise and delight you. So one thing that keeps coming up is that how do you and why should you build careers in public policy? So what we've done is that from the same people who've created exceptional content from us, people who worked at Niti Aayog, who've got prestigious fellowships and scholarships from Germany, and the US, UN diplomats all come together and explain the various stages of public policy careers. And again, I'd like you to remember the flipped classroom model, because these are the people who created the content. In order for you to join the boot camp, you actually need to finish that content. And once you finish the content, we track it at the back end. Once you finish, you get admitted into the boot camp, and then boot camp is your time where you really get your specific profile checked. You get your last mile doubts cleared. You actually strengthen your network as well, because when people see these are the people who will actually one day, if not sooner, offer jobs. I'll take the liberty of saying that one of the people who's conducting the policy boot camp is actively looking to hire for a particular organization. It's an exceptionally well-paid job. It's a really interesting job. And you get a chance to directly engage and network with these people, because the premise is content. This hollow networking and let me know how I can be of helpful, and these kinds of hollow phrases, these are not particularly useful unless and until you have a very specific way to add value to others and you've done your homework. You will not be able to network with anybody. So we've for the past few years, we've figured out how and why networks build, and we've figured out this content-centric networking works best for Network Capital. Maybe there are other models as well. But I'm really excited by these upcoming flipped classroom models and boot camps. And of course, you must have heard about our gap year program, where many of our college students are taking a gap year to really figure out what they want to do with their lives, and what are some creative ways to spend 1 year really thinking about things. In India, it has not been particularly common, but in the US, in Israel, in the UK, in France, it's not completely unheard of people taking out a year to really think things through, as opposed to first completing your bachelor's degree and then deciding, oh, what do I really care about? Am I passionate about? Did I just study this particular subject because it was available? So this gap year program, I'm really excited to bring to you. There are already loads of people who've signed up for it. Our goal for this gap year program is to both create lots of new adventures for people, but also very specific learning outcomes. We constantly focus on the long term, and we really believe in the power of compounding. So we believe in micro gains. We don't want to promise big things over a short period of time. We want to promise big things over a long period of time for those who do their homework and believe in the power of compounding. The last segment, or the third segment of Network Capital TV, is career intelligence. And as part of this career intelligence segment, we essentially offer everyday office hours with people with exceptional academic and professional records. And these office hours entail everything from mock interviews to going through your LinkedIn, CV, helping you think through, develop your career strategy, help you figure out, change your tracks. And honestly, this on-demand, personalized career intelligence model is something that we really want to preserve and create every day. So ever since COVID stuck, for from 5:30 p.m. India time to 10 p.m., Network Capital TV folks are available on their phone. People take up slots ranging from 15 minutes to 30 minutes every single day. And this conversation, or these 4 or 5 hours spent during COVID, have been absolutely illuminating for us. And from the data and from the feedback that we get from our subscribers, it's something that they benefit a ton from as well. So lots going on in the week, and thanks again for listening. Thanks again for your patronage. Cherish your support. Cherish everything that you've done. I believe that the gift of feedback is one of the most powerful gifts that there exists. And I just want to conclude by saying that who you work with and how you work and what your strategy is far more important than the number of hours that you spend working. Hard work is necessary but insufficient to succeed, which is the focus of my book. But largely, it is the principle of network capital as well. So use network capital for three things: finding the best career content, connecting with the smartest people around the world, and partaking of on-demand career intelligence. I wish you all the very best and catch you during the Masters MBA call and thereafter the happy hour. Thank you.